Hi, I'm Jeff Bermet, and along with Nick Davis, we are the co-managers of the Libero Dynamic Solutions and Cautious Portfolios. May was a strong month for the portfolios. It was a strong month for financial markets overall, at least for equity markets. And the main reason behind that was Trump backing off, really, on the huge tariffs he had put on against China. And he changed it from 145% to 30%. With a period of 90 days of discussions. And then later in the month, Trump announced 50% tariffs on the EU that over the following weekend after he made the announcement, he suspended those again with a 90-day period for talks. This has caused financial pundits to coin a phrase, the taco trade. Trump always chickens out on the tariffs, meaning ignore his bluster, buy the market on a dip, and that's a way to be successful. Trump definitely has made some crazy tariff announcements that he has walked back from because of financial market reactions. And certainly the reactions to the European tariff announcement of 50% were much smaller than the reactions we had gotten in the markets to earlier significant tariff announcements. So the markets are deciding that Trump does tend to chicken out on these tariffs, but he was asked this in a press conference at the White House and got visibly angry and has just, in the past few days, doubled down on the tariffs on steel and aluminum that come into the U.S. So tariffs are still very much a part of Trump's economic agenda. He still has the belief he is going to be able to bring a significant amount of manufacturing jobs back to the U.S. by pressuring U.S. trading partners with these significant tariffs. What also just happened, the Court of International Trade ruled against Trump using the particular law, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, to justify his reciprocal tariffs on almost all the U.S.'s trading partners. The court ruled unanimously in a summary judgment that the plaintiffs were right. Trump has no legal basis for implementing these tariffs. Trump quickly got another court to put a stay, a 10-day delay on this judgment pending an appeal. And it's possible the court rejects the appeal, and then Trump has vowed to go to the Supreme Court on this. The Supreme Court has a very short window. They take most of August and September off, so this will all have to happen very quickly. But I think if we step back and look at the bigger picture, what Trump has been trying to do to bring manufacturing jobs back to the U.S. Has been putting these significant tariffs on U.S. businesses and consumers who pay that tariff or those tariffs. They've already measured revenue in the 20 to 30 billion so far, and it is going to start showing up in inflation. It's certainly showing up in prices, and we would suspect it's going to begin to interfere with growth. We haven't seen that yet in the data, but we suspect very shortly you're going to see that. And how Trump reacts and how the markets react. I think it's going to be more of what we've seen this year, with U.S. equity markets underperforming the rest of the world. Because what Trump is doing by imposing these tariffs is raising taxes on U.S. businesses. That is not good for business. And the markets smell that and are trading in that fashion. Meanwhile, in Europe, inflation is back down near target. The central bank has been cutting, the ECB, and we have the new government in Germany that is focused on rebuilding defense and infrastructure. So Europe has a much more positive business feel about it than the US, and we would expect continued outperformance by non-US markets. Secondly, in the US, you have the tax bill going through. The tax bill itself is not really pushing any new major significant stimulus to the economy, and in fact has been disturbing the bond markets, because here we have a US economy growing still between 2 and 3%, and yet we're looking at a budget deficit of 6 to 7% of GDP. This is a scale of deficit spending normally associated with very deep recessions. So this is, at some point, will prove to be unsustainable. And it's begun to alarm the market such that 30-year bond yields in the U.S. have been flirting again with the 5% yield level. The yield curve is getting steeper, and we see this concern continuing. Now the Senate is looking at this tax bill. They have some thoughts about changing it in some ways. It's not clear how much they can change it, but they're not going to add anything really new that will make the markets think, this is a much better tax bill, it's much better for business, it's much more stimulative to activity. That's not what's going to happen. Rather, it is going to validate making the budget even larger. It's going to keep annoying the bond market. And there's one little section in this tax bill called Section 899. You've probably read about it in the press. It basically allows the US government to put a special tax on the interest income paid to foreign holders of US treasuries if they are seen in some way discriminating in their tax policies against US businesses. How this will happen is not clear, but it seems like the Senate is happy with this feature of the bill, and it is again unnerving bond market, and that's why we're staying away from the long end of the fixed income markets, not only in the US, but around the world. So we didn't really make a lot of changes in the portfolios in May. The themes that we have been emphasizing continue to work. European defense continues to be very, very strong, as Europe is now really driving towards spending 5% of GDP on defense, which is would be historically strong for them and very, very good for the order books of the European defense names we hold. We also continue to hold a variety of financial firms. Banks love upward sloping normal yield curves, and that's what we're getting around the world. We still have some exposure to large US tech. The spending there and the commitment to growing their AI capacity remains in place, and these big mega cap tech firms still generate enormous profits, and we don't see that really changing. And we still see growth as healthy in the US, certainly healthy outside the US. The US is at some risk from struggling under the pressure of the tariffs, but we'll just have to see how that plays out. But the Fed is still firmly on hold and awaiting to see what the tariffs do to inflation, and if there is any fallout in growth as well because of tariffs perhaps slowing business spending or hiring.